Hi, my name is Jessica. I studied Anthropology and Political Science at Birmingham and I graduated that in 2017. And then I did my master's in International Relations and Gender, and I graduated from that in 2018. And I now work as a consultant at UN Women in New York. So my day-to-day job, I'm in the Intergovernmental Support Division of UN Women. So our job mainly is to interact with member states and provide them we do a lot of language proposals on gender. So say there's a big UN meeting, we'll go and we'll help them, provide them in areas where they can add in gendered language and sort of make the, say, documents, resolutions more gendered and make sure that there's always a gender angle in all of the sort of the big UN work. We cover a lot of meetings, so we go to a lot of the, for example, I think in September, I was going to the UN High Level Week. So we went there and we sort of monitored how different member states were paying attention to gender and women's issues and gender equality, and we sort of rank them and then do lots of gender analysis based on how people are discussing gender and where there's areas of weakness and where there's strength and what areas people are focusing on. So in terms of the differences between studying gender and then seeing it sort of play out in real life within my work, I think one of the major things that I did realize, but I don't think I realized so much, was that gender is so central to so much of politics and daily life, and it's such a critical field in terms of political sort of point in terms of what member states and countries really value. I think a lot of time people think of politics as this very high up sort of boring politics between countries and war and finance and things, but I don't think people understand there's so much of the human side of it in terms of gender and how honestly in so much of our work the biggest sticking points when it comes to agreement is on gender and on so many member states have so many countries are so progressive. A lot of countries are very stuck in their sort of ways of what women and men's roles are, and the dichotomy between the two is so huge that's usually one of the major reasons why people can't agree to things, can't settle on can't get to agreement, because there's such a divergence in countries' perspectives of women and gender and how people have and how women and how gender should be viewed, because so many people see it as men and women. Other countries see gender as this all-encompassing sort of all-encompassing gender as a whole, as opposed to just men and women. And so that causes a lot of confrontation, and I think that's what I didn't realize so much, is that gender is so political. I think it's very difficult sometimes when you're sitting in meetings and being told that women shouldn't have certain rights and that certain people don't exist, and women should basically just stay at home and that's their only role. So it is very difficult, but then again, that's the reason, that's the thing that keeps you going, because you're this is the reason why this work is so important, because so many people don't have rights because they're not seen as either people or seen as secondary citizens to men. And so that's sort of what does keep you inspired. It's what keeps you going, because it shows you concretely this is why we have to do our work to change these ideas and ideologies. We have to keep trying to push the needle a bit further towards some sort of equality. We do the Commission on the Status of Women every year, so it's a 2-week session on women's rights, and it's the second biggest UN meeting after the General Assembly. And so all member states come and they discuss women and women's rights, and each year there's a different theme. This year it's innovation and technology. And so it's a gathering of all the heads of states, prime ministers, presidents come, and they deliver statements and they discuss, and we have round tables and interactive dialogues, and they come and discuss sort of the status of women in their countries and also in terms of the theme. And so I think seeing something like that and seeing the importance that people hold towards this session does provide some optimism. And yes, it's so difficult because you then read in the news about all this like horrible stuff that's happening, but the fact that we can still have this huge sort of celebration of women's rights and women and like gender equality, and it's the second biggest meeting in the UN and it's held in such high esteem, that sort of does provide that optimism. And it's also great because it provides a space in where you can sort of challenge these more, I guess, conservative countries and conservative views of gender, and people can challenge it. And we also have civil society and youth who also come and challenge it and add in a different perspective that's not just a high up heads of state level. So I think events like that also provide, an opportunity to see sort of there is some hope if people are willing to come and discuss it.